So the entire situation surrounding Destiny 2 and its shutdown is unfortunate. I think Bungie made a boneheaded decision pulling resources from Destiny 2 to go make a game no one asked for in the form of Marathon, which is failing miserably, and they fumbled one of the most loyal and dedicated communities I have ever seen in the gaming space. There's one slight glimmer of hope for the preservation and potential continuation of the Destiny franchise for the time being until Sony potentially sells the IP to someone else, and that's the modding community. Specifically, guys like Stan Uwu and Kevin G. They have found ways to run older builds of the game and getting into versions of the maps that were removed from it and placed in the Destiny content vault. They're cracking the vault open and they're getting into content that we haven't had access for in years. One player was even able to load the base map of the Leviathan raid. Now, unfortunately, due to the complexity of it, they haven't gotten everything working, so things like the enemy spawns and raid mechanics don't actually work, but they can still spawn into the map, walk around them, and it's really crazy to see areas that I haven't seen in Destiny in 5 or 6 years now back in a playable state. And there's also folks who are getting the very first Destiny using PlayStation 3 emulation on PC to run on PC builds. Now, the first Destiny, unfortunately, was never ported to PC like the second game was. And I think that was also a huge fumble by Bungie. Why would you not want people playing the game as much as possible? And there's a huge community of people that would love to see the first Destiny either completely remastered for modern consoles or at least accessible on PC. And these guys are actually making that possible. Again, not everything is working. Let me clarify that very quickly before we get too excited. But they're able to load into the maps, the tower, the character creator. They're able to load into like inventories, the terminals, and stuff like that. Very basic UI stuff. And the maps themselves, but no actual mechanics or gameplay physics. That stuff is way more complicated. I'm sure in time, someone will figure it out. And that's what I mean by a glimmer of hope. Because Bungie is fumbled and effectively being absorbed into Sony. If Sony doesn't want the Destiny franchise to continue, well, then Destiny is done. If they sell off the IP to someone else, then maybe there's a chance that Destiny 3 can happen in some sort of reboot. I doubt they would actually continue the exact story that we have, but they might continue it in the same universe, kind of like Destiny Rising as an offshoot, while still retaining the core DNA of Guardians versus the enemy factions of the world. With that being said, though, I don't know who could actually handle this correctly. While we did criticize Bungie, and they absolutely deserve the criticism, especially from a leadership standpoint, they knew how Destiny played, and they knew how it felt. There's one thing Bungie never got wrong was atmosphere and gunplay. I don't know if any other studio can accurately handle that. If you look at how Halo Studios is handling Halo, it's evident that just handing the IP to someone else doesn't mean they know how to do it. Handing your prized car over to someone else doesn't mean they know how to drive it correctly. Sure, they can drive down the road, but when it comes to complicated maneuvers, they're not going to be able to match you one to one. If you put me in Jeff Gordon's NASCAR, just because it's Jeff Gordon's NASCAR doesn't mean I'm going to win races. I'm an idiot. I don't know how to drive a NASCAR. That's effectively what's happening if you just give the IP to someone else. Now, I did see there was a slight rumor that companies like BioWare might be in line for the Destiny IP if Sony decides to sell it, and I do not like that idea at all. If we're going to do it, I think we should do it with a new studio, but I'm getting ahead of myself. In terms of preservation of Destiny 1 and 2, we're making pretty significant strides very quickly within a couple months of Destiny 2 officially ending. Now, of course, the game is still playable, but the community is reeling from this decision, and of course, the denial stage is over, and now we're working on bargaining. We're going to try to make sure that we have everything we can before we accept that it's gone. And I applaud you guys for doing that. A lot of these guys, these modders, are doing this for no labor rate at all. They're doing this effectively for free. It's just passion and good old-fashioned gaming community keeping them going and trying to preserve something that matters to them. And I wish game companies would actually look at people who did that, like how Valve back in the day when they found out these guys had made a mod for the original Half-Life. Instead of sending them a cease and desist or threatening to sue them, what they did was they went to them and hired them and say, hey, you made a really awesome mod. How would you like come to develop this game at Valve? And guess what that game turned into? Counter-Strike, one of the most significant first-person shooter games ever made in a competitive sense. It was revolutionary. So I don't know what the future of Destiny holds, but we do have some good hope for the preservation of its past. And I hope that that continues to grow. And I hope that Bungie, or by extension Sony, doesn't pull an Activision and starts throwing cease and desist orders at the modders who are doing work for free that they weren't bothered to do. It's not looking good for the future of Destiny, but we might be able to hold on to the past for just a little bit longer thanks to the efforts of some genuinely talented and passionate people. That's all I have for today. You guys have a good one.